Some years don't fall apart. They just never let you rest. You wake up tired, move through your day like you're dragging invisible weight, and fall asleep without feeling like you've actually lived. Not because of one big crisis, but because nothing ever lets up. And maybe, after a while, you stop hoping for breakthroughs. You stop asking the big questions like, will I be successful? Or will things finally change? You just quietly wish for something smaller. A year that doesn't ask too much from you. That's why this video isn't about luck. It's not about who gets rich in 2026 or who has the best energy. It's about recognizing a very real shift in rhythm. A subtle change that may make certain birth years feel just a little more in sync with life, rather than constantly running upstream. Because sometimes, not being pushed so hard by time, money, health, or family is already more valuable than any dramatic win. 2026 won't be soft for everyone, but if you were born in certain years, the road ahead may offer fewer bumps, more pauses, and a kind of invisible ease. Not a free pass, not a miracle, just space, breathing room. And for many people I speak to, especially those who have carried more than their share, this is what they truly crave. Not applause, not perfection. Just the feeling of being able to catch their breath, without everything falling apart. So if you've been tired in a way you can't quite explain, tired in your bones, tired in your spirit, stay with me. This message isn't about comparing yourself to others. It's about understanding whether 2026 might finally be the year where life gives you back a little of what it's quietly taken over time. Let's begin. Stop asking if you'll be lucky. Ask if you'll be less drained. You've probably heard it 100 times. Next year might be your lucky year. It sounds hopeful, like something is finally about to turn in your favor. But after a certain point in life, lucky starts to feel like a word made for someone else. Someone younger, someone with fewer scars. Because when you've lived long enough, luck stops being about winning the lottery or landing a big opportunity. It becomes something quieter, something simpler. Something like getting through a week without feeling like you're holding everything together by a thread. That's why I want to say this clearly. Right now, stop asking if you'll be lucky in 2026. Start asking if you'll feel less drained. That's the real gift, isn't it? Not waking up every day with perfect energy or joy, but just waking up and not feeling like your soul is already tired before the day even begins. There are years that don't destroy us, but they leave us running on fumes. Years that come with no crisis, but still feel like a slow erosion of your clarity, your rest, your ability to think clearly or feel like yourself. Those are the years that truly wear us down, not because of what happens, but because of what keeps not stopping. And that's where 2026 comes in. For some birth years, this isn't a year of miracles, it's a year where you're not being constantly pushed against. A year where the wind isn't always in your face. It doesn't mean nothing will go wrong. It means you'll have a little more space between the hard moments. A little more recovery time between challenges. The kind of space that lets you exhale without bracing for the next thing. That's what I mean when I say a more favorable year. Not better luck, just less friction. Think of it like walking. Some years, every step feels uphill, against the wind, on a path that never levels out. But then, there are years where the ground feels more even, where you're not walking faster or trying harder, but the effort it takes just feels lighter. You're still moving, still dealing with life, but you're not being dragged. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, but how do I know if that's me? That's the part we'll explore in a moment, as we break things down by birth years. But before we do that, I want to ground something even deeper. Because the point here isn't to feed you false hope or vague inspiration. It's to shift your lens. Because maybe you've been measuring your life through the wrong questions. Maybe it's not about asking, will I finally win? But will I finally feel like I can breathe? Ask yourself, what would it mean if next year was just easier? Not magical, not perfect. Just a little less weight on your shoulders. A little less tension in your chest. What would you do if your mind didn't feel so foggy by 3 p.m.? If your sleep came easier, your worries slowed down, and your body didn't feel like it was constantly recovering from a storm? You don't need a massive breakthrough to change your life. Sometimes you just need a year that isn't working against you. A year that gives back a few inches of peace where it used to take feet of energy. That's what this is about. That's what some of you, depending on your birth year, may finally get in 2026. And if that's you, then I want to plant this idea gently but firmly in your mind. Don't waste the ease by rushing through it. If the year feels softer, move softer. If things come a little smoother, don't immediately fill that space with more pressure, more plans, more expectations. Let the room in your life stay open long enough to feel it. Because if you've been living the past few years always bracing, always budgeting your energy, always waiting for the next thing to go wrong, this shift in 2026, even if it's subtle, can feel like a door quietly unlocking. You don't need to run through it. But maybe, just maybe, you can stop clenching your fists. In the next part, I'll walk you through the birth years that may find themselves walking on firmer, flatter ground in 2026. Not because of fate or fantasy, but because their rhythm may finally match the year ahead. But before we go there, just take a breath. The kind of breath you don't have to earn. The kind of breath that doesn't ask you to keep proving something. If that feels unfamiliar, you're exactly where you need to be. Group 1. When peace is enough. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that comes with age, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that simply knows. And if you've lived long enough to be born in 1950, 1953, or 1962, you probably already understand this at some point. Peace becomes more precious than progress. What matters most is no longer what's ahead, but what you're able to hold on to: your health, your clarity, your steadiness. Because after a certain age, even the smallest disruption can feel like a storm. You're not looking for a lucky break. You're not waiting for a door to open. You've seen enough to know that sometimes, just keeping the roof from leaking is the real victory. So when we talk about 2026, we're not talking about sudden success or dramatic shifts. We're talking about the rare and beautiful possibility of a year that doesn't pull you down. A year that doesn't rush you, test you, or ask you to carry more than you already do. For people born in 1950, 1953, and 1962, 2026 carries the energy of steadiness. And that may not sound exciting, but it's exactly what makes it valuable. This year may not bring big changes, but it's also not likely to bring big shocks. And if you've ever had to navigate medical scares, unexpected family chaos, or the slow grind of mental and physical fatigue, then you know no news can be the best news. A year where your sleep stays consistent, your body doesn't flare up with new symptoms, and your relationships don't erupt into new problems. That is not a boring year. That's a gift. What's important to understand is this: a peaceful year doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means the pressure eases off, just enough for you to feel your own rhythm again. It means your energy isn't constantly being spent reacting to things outside your control. You're not running, you're not fixing, you're simply maintaining. And for those in their 60s or 70s, that's more than enough. But here's the part that matters most. A year like this only works in your favor if you allow it to. If 2026 offers you calm, but you continue living as if everything is on fire, saying yes to things you don't want, stretching yourself for others, overthinking everything, then even the calmest year will still drain you. This is not the time to prove you still can. It's the time to stop trying to do what you no longer need to. There's a line I once heard from an elder that has stayed with me. I don't want more years. I just want the ones I still have to be gentler. That kind of clarity only comes from experience. From knowing that time isn't just about how long you live, but how well you're able to stay present, connected, and at peace while you're still here. So what does this mean for you? It means you don't need a plan to accomplish something big in 2026. You need a plan to protect your energy. It means simplifying your days where you can. It means saying no when your body whispers please, no more. It means understanding that your value doesn't come from being constantly available to fix everything for your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, your community. Sometimes your value comes from showing them what it looks like to live slowly, wisely, and without guilt. And maybe most importantly, it means learning how to rest without waiting for permission. Rest without guilt. Rest not because you're weak but because you've earned it. If this year brings you space, let yourself fill it with something light. A walk that doesn't have to lead anywhere. A quiet breakfast where you're not scrolling or rushing. A conversation that's not about solving. Just sharing 2026 is not a prize, it's a pause. And if you were born in one of these years, you may finally feel the difference between simply surviving and quietly thriving. Let the steadiness of the year remind you that you don't need to be anyone's anchor anymore. You've held enough. And maybe, just maybe, this is the year you start letting the current carry you a little. In the next part, we'll talk about the age group that's right in the middle of life, still working, still juggling, still figuring out how to breathe while holding everything up. But before we get there, if you were born in 1950, 1953, or 1962, take this in gently. The world may not give you much recognition for simply holding steady. But I hope you give it to yourself. Because if you reach the end of 2026 still feeling like yourself, still steady, still whole, that's not nothing. That's everything. Group 2, for the ones carrying too much too long. There's a certain type of tired that doesn't go away with rest. It's the kind of tired you feel in your back while unloading groceries after a full day of work. The kind that sits behind your eyes when you're trying to focus, but your brain is already too full. It's the kind of tired you don't talk about because so much of it isn't even physical, it's mental, emotional, invisible. And if you were born in 1968, 1977, 1980, or 1982, chances are you've been living with that kind of tired for a while now. Midlife is complicated. You're not old, but you're not young enough to drop everything and start fresh either. You carry more than one role at a time: parent, child, partner, worker, caretaker, fixer. Everyone needs something from you. Your time isn't fully yours. Your thoughts rarely settle, and yet you keep going. Because that's what's expected. You hold it together because you always have. That's why when I talk about 2026 being a more favorable year for your age group, I don't mean that things will suddenly be easy. I mean the pressure may start to spread out. The pile-up might slow. The space between problems might get just wide enough for you to breathe. For people born in these years, 2026 isn't about gaining more, it's about losing a little less. Less mental clutter. Less non-stop urgency. Less of that silent guilt that comes with never quite doing enough, even though you're doing everything. This is a year where responsibilities don't vanish, but they stop tripping over each other. Where you might actually finish one thing before the next crisis kicks in. And if you've spent the last few years constantly moving, constantly reacting, constantly firefighting, then even that small shift can feel like a miracle. A moment to pause. A chance to choose what matters, instead of just surviving what's screaming the loudest. You might notice in 2026 that the decisions you make stick better. That your effort produces results more cleanly. That the same work doesn't leave you quite as depleted. This isn't luck, it's alignment. And when your energy matches the rhythm of the year, things don't just feel easier, they are easier. Not because you're doing less, but because you're no longer dragging yourself upstream while doing it. But let's be honest, none of this means anything if you don't notice it. If you keep moving at the same frantic pace, you might miss the gentler rhythm this year is trying to offer. That's why this year is an invitation to shift, to recalibrate. Maybe it's your work scaling back a little, delegating what you've always handled alone. Maybe it's your relationships speaking up more, or letting go of ones that drain you. Maybe it's your health, Finally listening to what your body's been whispering all along. Before it has to start yelling, 2026 is not a green light for big risks. This isn't the year to leap without looking, or to make sudden moves out of frustration. But it is a year for thoughtful, slow shifts. If you act with intention, if you pause before reacting, plan before plunging, you'll likely find that the world meets you halfway. Not with fireworks, but with flow. And for someone in the middle of life, that's a big deal. Many people at this age quietly feel stuck, like every path forward costs too much, and staying still is just as exhausting. What 2026 offers isn't clarity about the whole road ahead. It offers a clearer view of the next step. A chance to course correct gently, instead of crashing and rebuilding. And that kind of grace can change everything. So if you were born in 1968, 1977, 1980, or 1982, this is what I want you to remember. This is not the year to prove anything. It's the year to choose wisely. To create just enough space in your life to feel where things are headed, so you can walk instead of run. Breathe instead of brace. Adjust instead of collapse. In the next part, we'll talk about those in transition, those who feel like they're standing at the edge of something, but haven't stepped through yet. But if you're part of this midlife group, let this land gently. If the year feels quieter, move quieter. If you're offered breathing room, don't fill it with noise. Because this time you don't have to carry it all. Not again. Not like before. Group 3 transition years, not a time to rush, but to choose right. There's a moment in life that doesn't get talked about enough, the moment where you're not exactly lost, but no longer sure if the path you're on is really yours. If you were born in 1986 or 1989, you may find yourself standing in that space right now. You're old enough to see the patterns. You've lived enough to feel the weight of your decisions. And yet, you're still young enough to wonder if it's too late to change direction. That's the thing about transitional years, they don't announce themselves with clarity. They whisper. They create tension. They stir quiet discomfort. You feel it when your job starts feeling too tight, but you don't know where else to go. When your relationships start feeling routine, but you're afraid to shake things up. When the life you built no longer inspires you, but the idea of undoing it is terrifying. And that's exactly why 2026 matters. For people born in 1986 and 1989, this isn't a year of smooth sailing, but it is a year of opportunity. Not flashy, not instant, not dramatic, but real. If you've been feeling pressure to act, to change something big, to finally figure it all out, this is not the time to rush. It's the time to look closely. Because the answers you're seeking won't show up through force. They'll come when you create enough stillness to see what's already been trying to speak to you. You may face some challenges this year, but unlike the kind of challenges that knock you down, these may be the kind that ask you to stop and look inward. To ask yourself questions you've avoided for a long time. Like, am I living a life I chose? Or one I fell into? Am I still trying to meet someone else's expectations? Or am I finally willing to risk living by my own? 2026 holds a mirror. It's not always comfortable, but it's honest. And honesty is what sets you free. This year, you might be asked to let go of something that once gave you identity. A job title, a relationship label, a version of yourself that no longer fits. It might hurt, it might be confusing, but it won't be a punishment, it will be a nudge. A quiet, persistent invitation to shift. The good news, this year comes with solutions. You won't be left hanging. You won't be thrown into chaos. What arises will likely come with options, doors you hadn't noticed, paths that weren't there before. But you have to choose them. And you can't do that if you're moving too fast, trying to stay busy just to avoid the discomfort of asking, what do I actually want now? This is a year that rewards honesty. Not action for the sake of momentum, but thoughtful, slow choice. Not the loud, external kind of choice that gets applause, but the kind that feels quiet and deeply right in your gut. That kind of clarity doesn't always come with big signs. Sometimes it arrives in exhaustion, in frustration, In one more Sunday night where you think this can't be all there is. If you let this year slow you down, not stop you, just slow you, you'll likely see patterns you couldn't see before. You'll start noticing what drains you, what no longer fits, what you've outgrown. That's where power begins. Not in fighting the old, but in gently choosing what comes next. So if you were born in 1986 or 1989, and you've been holding your breath trying to push forward, trying to prove something, trying to catch up, maybe this is the year you stop running. Maybe this is the year you turn inward. Choose carefully, and allow yourself to believe that changing direction isn't failure. It's maturity. The world won't always give you permission to pause, but this year might. And if it does, use it. Don't fill it with new goals just to feel productive. Use it to listen, to notice, to tell the truth. And when the choice becomes clear, don't rush through it. Just take the next right step. That's all this year asks of you. In the next part, we'll move to the youngest group, those still full of choices, still building their foundation, but vulnerable to rushing before they're ready. But if you're in this transition group, carry this with you. 2026 is not about arrival. It's about alignment. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose a path you actually want, even if you have to build it yourself. Group 4, younger but uncertain, the foundation years. There's a strange kind of pressure that comes with being young today. Not the kind your parents faced. Not just about survival or finding stability, but a pressure to figure it all out faster than ever. To succeed early, to build something big, to be sure of everything by the time you're 25. And if you were born in 1998 or 2000, you're likely carrying that pressure quietly, whether you realize it or not. Your 20s are supposed to be full of possibility, and they are. But no one tells you that possibility can be paralyzing. When everything is open, when there are so many choices, so many paths, so many expectations, it's hard to know what's actually right for you. And when you see people your age launching companies, moving overseas, getting married, or buying homes, it's easy to wonder, am I already behind? That's why this message is different. Because 2026 is not a year asking you to speed up. In fact, if you were born in 1998 or 2000, this is a year that invites you to slow down, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. This is a foundation year. A year not for flashy wins, but for careful laying of bricks. A year where the decisions you make might not look impressive at first, but will quietly shape the next decade of your life. And I want you to hear this clearly: foundations are never glamorous. No one applauds when the concrete is poured. No one posts about the months spent figuring out the basics. But without those early choices about how you live, who you trust, how you spend your energy, you don't get a home that lasts. You get something shiny that cracks under pressure. 2026 is your chance to build something that lasts. But only if you resist the urge to rush. This might be a year where you don't get immediate rewards, but you find clarity. Maybe you realize the major you chose isn't really aligned with who you are. Maybe you start to see that your job doesn't fulfill you, even if it looks good on paper. Maybe you let go of a relationship that feels almost right but not quite. And that moment of letting go, that's not failure, that's wisdom. This is also a year to watch for quiet signs. A mentor who appears at the right moment. A side project that starts to feel like more than a hobby. A new habit that sticks not because you forced it, but because it fits. These aren't big wins, but they are foundational shifts. And they're what 2026 is offering you if you're paying attention. There's another truth here that no one tells you: you're still allowed to mess up, even in a good year. Even when things are aligned, you're allowed to choose wrong, and then course correct. You're allowed to try something and walk away. You don't have to get it all right on the first try. What matters more than anything is that you're willing to stay aware, to notice when something drains you, to listen when your gut says this isn't it, and to trust that slowing down doesn't mean falling behind. In fact, it might be the only way to stay ahead, because rushing to build a life that looks good but doesn't feel right That's what leads to burnout, regret, collapse. But moving with care, that's what gives you roots, not just speed. So if you were born in 1998 or 2000, here's your quiet assignment for 2026: stop comparing. Stop chasing timelines that weren't made for you. Start noticing the life that's unfolding when you're not forcing it. Because there's a version of your future that isn't loud, but it's strong. And this is the year you start to meet it. In our final section, we'll zoom out and talk about what a good year really means beyond birth charts and timelines. But before we go there, hold on to this: not all growth is visible, not all progress is public, and not all success shows up early. If 2026 offers you a little more clarity, a little more steadiness, and a little more alignment, you don't need to do more. You just need to notice it and trust it. Maybe by now, you've already figured out that this video was never really about birth years. Not in the shallow way some expect, listing who's lucky, who's not. Because life doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in rhythms, in seasons, in wait and rest, in resistance and flow. And what we've just explored through every age, every story, is not a promise of perfection. It's an invitation to pay attention, because a good year doesn't always look good on the outside. Sometimes it looks boring, uneventful, quiet. But underneath that quiet is something powerful: the absence of chaos, the slowing of storms, the return of your breath. That is what we're really searching for: not a miracle, but margin. Not luck, but alignment. The kind of year where you're not constantly bracing for the next hit. Whether you're holding steady in your 60s, rearranging your life in your 40s, standing at a crossroads in your 30s, or building from the ground up in your 20s, this message is for you. If 2026 gives you just a little more ease, don't rush through it. Don't fill every open space. Let yourself feel what it's like to not be in survival mode. Let yourself remember that life isn't something you have to push through. It's something you get to feel. And if you're not in one of the birth years I mentioned, don't feel left out. Your story isn't behind. Your rhythm is simply different. Maybe this year is asking you to hold back. Maybe it's asking you to let go. Or maybe it's offering you a lesson that will only make sense in hindsight. Whatever it is, move with it, not against it. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. I know your time is valuable. I know your heart is carrying more than you show. And if any part of this message gave you a little peace, a little clarity, or even just a moment of breath, I'm grateful. As you walk into 2026, I hope you remember, you don't need to fix everything. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to stay connected to yourself, to what matters, and to the kind of life that lets you breathe. Even if it's quiet, especially if it's quiet, take care, stay steady. And may next year be the one that feels a little less heavy, for no other reason than you deserve to feel that difference.